So let's talk about infrastructure funding. As cars become more fuel efficient and some not even needing gas at all, and the number of those going up, we're having a problem in terms of our formula and the gas tax and having money to fund road projects. So what needs to happen? I know there was a bill this year that didn't end up on the finish line, but this problem is only going to get worse. So what do we do about infrastructure funding and the gas tax?
You know, it is a big issue, and it obviously the main issue is that we don't have enough money. That's an easily identifiable problem. We don't have enough money to repair the bridges and roads that we have. We don't have enough money to make investments in expanding infrastructure that's good for Kentucky. So it's a funding problem. The really difficult thing to identify is how to correct that. It's easy to say, well, let's just raise the gas tax. And while that will certainly create more funding, it doesn't fix the long-term problem, as you alluded to, of a broken funding model. And it certainly is not a major issue now, but you can see the direction that automakers are going with electric and hybrid vehicles. Toyota is making enormous investments right here in Kentucky to expand their production of electric and hybrid vehicles. The next generation vehicles are going to be more fuel efficient. So it is continuing to be a problem, but we're not doing anything to reduce the wear and tear on our roads. We're not doing anything to reduce the need for infrastructure. We've got over 100 bridges that are shut down in this state. This is a big problem. So we've got to figure out a way to fund our system long term, because we are relying on a declining resource. And under all circumstances, the consumption of motor fuels is going to go down. So anything that relies on motor fuels, on the consumption of motor fuels, is going to be a declining resource. The real quandary for Kentucky is that a lot of states have gone to a miles-driven formula. Excuse me. That's problematic in Kentucky, because one of the few competitive advantages that we have is our infrastructure, our location in this country. Half the world travels through Kentucky at least twice a year. An enormous amount of the commercial traffic that goes across America comes through Kentucky. It's the one thing where people are forced, in many, many cases, to stopping in Kentucky and spending money. It's not any different. I give the analogy all the time. When you fly into an airport in Florida, you can't leave the state to go rent a car. They have you hostage, and that's their competitive advantage. And they don't blush even a little bit about charging you an extra, that car that you think is going to cost you $25 a day ends up costing you $75 a day after you put all the fees and taxes on it. That is our competitive advantage with our highways, and it is one that it's a competitive advantage that costs us a lot of money to maintain. And so we've got to figure out a way to capture that advantage, to utilize that advantage without penalizing Kentucky residents. And that's the real quandary, and it's something that we're going to have to continue to study. I'd love to tell you that there's an easy answer. There's not. It's one that's going to continue to take study. It's going to continue to take innovation and creativity.
And like you said, the burden on Kentuckians is part of the problem, because when you talk about tax reform, the gas pump is one of the worst for people, because it hits their pocket every single day. They see it right in front of them. So what does potentially the solution look like in terms of, I know this year the bill had a lot of potentially a fee for hybrid cars, or when you go and get your license or something along those lines. What kind of options are on the table to fix these problems?
There are several things. To your point, there are several things that can be done to protect or to collect resident revenue. It's something significant. You can charge additional registration fees. You can charge service charges on electrical fueling stations. There are several things that can be done if you have a captive audience, which Kentucky residents are captive. The challenge, again, is collecting that out-of-state revenue, and that's where it's really going to take some creative thought. There have been some things suggested around the country. This is a problem all over the country. It's not just here in Kentucky. I think it's pronounced here in Kentucky. But there have been things suggested where there's actually a variable tax if you are a Kentucky resident versus an out-of-state resident. The problem is point of collection is all at the gas pump. So it makes it very, very difficult to do those things. It's not an easy problem to solve.